welcome back to Knowledge on the Go, Wit and Wisdom's virtual lessons. As you know, my name is Mrs. Killian, and I'm one of your teachers for this virtual learning experience. Today, I'm excited to continue our learning with Lesson 2 in our Welcome module. Lesson 2 has two parts. In the first part, we're going to continue reading the work of art where we noticed and wondered in the last lesson. In the second part, we're going to think about writing. Before we get started, let's quickly review some of the ideas that we shared during our last lesson. We want to make the most out of this time together. To get the most out of our virtual experience, remember to come ready to learn. Be ready to think, share your ideas, be excited for what you're learning, and try to stay focused. As you know, the Welcome module has 5 lessons. Our essential question for these 5 lessons is, how will we learn together virtually? Today, we'll keep exploring that question. These are the goals for our Welcome module. They're the same ones that I shared with you during our last lesson. We're going to continue to work to meet these goals today. You will practice and you will learn all about the content stages. You will learn about a new text, and together we're going to learn how to do this work virtually. As I explained last time, each of the 5 content stages has a content framing question. That question guides our learning. Today, we will work through the second content stage, organize. The content framing question for our learning in this organized lesson is, what is happening in this photograph? We're going to continue to study our text, the photograph that we looked at last time. We're going to make sure that we all agree on what is happening in it, both literally and artistically. To do this work, we are all going to engage in a routine called Stop and Jot. I'll ask you to pause the video a few times, and then you will jot down some notes about your thoughts. You can do this either with a pen or paper, or you can do it in your electronic space. Make a header that says Stop and Jot about photograph. You may want to pause the video now so that you can get your Stop and Jot page ready. Now let's return to the photograph. This photograph is a primary source. Have you heard of a primary source? What do you know about primary sources? Primary source documents are materials that were created at the time of an event or afterwards by people who were there. Think, how can primary sources help us learn about a time in history? This photograph was taken during a visit where President Lincoln went to Antietam battlefield. The Battle of Antietam was one of the most brutal and bloody battles in all of the Civil War. The Civil War was a war between 2 sections of the United States. This means that it was a time when the country was at war with itself. The northern states wanted all states to be part of the Union. The southern states broke away and they formed their own country, the Confederate States of America. This led to the start of the Civil War because one country became 2. Abraham Lincoln became president right before the Civil War. While most Northerners were happy that Abraham Lincoln was elected president of the United States, many Southerners were not happy. When the country divided, Lincoln remained president in the northern states, the Union. In this photograph, you will see Lincoln right in the middle. He played an important role in the Civil War. The 2 men next to Lincoln are Major General John A. McClernand and Allan Pinkerton, Chief of the Secret Service. During the Civil War, taking a photograph was much different and more difficult than it is today. Take a moment and think, how do we take photographs today? You may be thinking about taking a photograph on your cell phone or seeing a photographer do it quickly. Today, we can snap photographs quickly and with ease. However, during the time of the Civil War, the 1860s, photographers used cumbersome equipment, and it took a lot of time. The Civil War was the first war during which the public was able to see a photograph, and many photographs. The public was able to see the actual conditions and the impact of war. Okay, so remember, we are in the organized stage. During this stage, we want to make sure that we have a shared understanding of what is happening in a text. Just like you might summarize a story you read, imagine you had to summarize or describe what is happening in this photograph for someone else. What would you say is happening in it? What is the setting? Who are the characters? Base your summary only on the evidence of what you see, not what you imagine is happening. I want you to pause the video and jot your summary of what is happening in this photograph on your stop and jot page. Do that now. I really wish I could hear and see what you recorded. If you are doing these lessons with a family member or friend, stop and share what you have written. Check whether you agree that what you noted is thorough and is based on evidence directly from the photograph. Do that now. I'm going to share my own thoughts about what is happening in this photograph. But before I do, just as I did in our last lesson, I want you to understand why I'm doing it. I'm only sharing what I think to get a discussion going and to give you a chance to compare what you wrote with someone else's writing so that you can think through whether you are thorough and whether you based your observation on evidence from the text. Here's what I summarized what's happening in the story. Abraham Lincoln is in this picture, and this was taken at the Antietam battlefield. He is outside and standing in front of a tent with a general and chief of the Secret Service. The men have serious expressions on their faces. What is your summary? Is it thorough? Is it based on evidence? Another way to tell what is happening in a photograph or artwork is to look at what is happening artistically. I'm a former art teacher, so this part makes me really excited. In a story, we look at plot, character, and setting. In a photograph or painting, we look at color, line, or shape. Photographers, like painters, use elements of visual art such as line, shape, space, to organize their artworks, to tell a story, and to hold our attention. Line are the shapes and outlines in a piece of art that move our eye. Shape includes the areas around, between, and within forms in an artwork. This is a time where you're going to stop and jot some notes about what you notice is happening in terms of the artist's technique. Consider, where do you see lines? Are the lines large, small? What effect do these lines have? You may also want to think about space. How does this photographer use space? Pause the video as needed to do your stop and jot. I bet you saw many techniques in this artwork, in this photograph. If you are doing these lessons with a family member or friend, right here is where you should stop and you should share what you have written in your stop and jot. Be sure to refer to the photograph to tell that person what you noticed and what's happening artistically in this photograph. Here is what I noted is happening artistically. The president is in the center of the photograph. His shirt is white. His white shirt is at the center of that image, and it really contrasts with the black hat that draws attention to his face. White papers have blown on the ground at each side of the figure. The president is the tallest figure and is standing vertically. There's a tall, straight pole behind him. The lines of the tent pole and flaps just behind his head seem to point towards him. The figures at each side of him turn toward him, perhaps demonstrating his importance. Their hands seem to be at their hearts, as if making a pledge of allegiance to the president. The trees are fuzzy behind him in the background. However, those images of the men are clear. I'm sure that you noted these and other aspects of the photograph as well. We're going to have a chance to keep looking at it. I'm always amazed at how much I see the more I look at the photograph. Just to remind you, today we practiced the second content stage, which is organize. In our next content stage, we're going to dive into reveal, and we're going to dig deeper into some techniques that we noted today, and we're going to think about their impact on us as viewers and what they may mean. This concludes part 1 of lesson 2. When you're ready, you can begin part 2 of lesson 2. We're going to think about writing during that section.